welcome. This is Squirtle Master Kenobi. I'm bringing you a first of many Star Wars videos, and this is my friend...
Mr. Dynamic.
Mr. Dynamic. For the plan for today's video is that we're going to be going over one, maybe two each, possibly a third, of what-if scenarios for Star Wars, that being something to the effect of, what if Luke didn't disappear, or something like that. And so we're going to take one aspect of the Star Wars movie. We're going to say, what if this was different? And we're going to say what we think the repercussions and how that might have changed the story from that point moving forward. Then the other will give their pros and cons of why they think that would have been a good thing or a bad thing.
Right.
And then we'll go back and forth. So I'll start.
Cool.
And for my first one, I'm going to be going over what if Anakin was 15 years old in The Phantom Menace.
Okay.
So... basically, in Phantom Menace, you start out and Anakin is 9 years old. But what I'm thinking is if you take him and you introduce him as a 15-year-old, it does a couple things. First of all, it changes a lot of relationships. One primarily being is that instead of having that mother-son relationship where he's still kind of a child and she mothers him a lot, it'll change to a mother with a rebellious son, more than likely, given the type of character that Anakin probably was. And it would make more sense why he would be able to race a pod, and he would even potentially have a story element in the movie where he would have had to sneak around his mom to do the pod racing for Qui-Gon and Padme, instead of it being like, oh yes, I think I'll let my 9-year-old race this super dangerous pod racer for these random strangers that we just met yesterday.
Right, it would make more sense.
It would make more sense storyline-wise. It would also give more to Anakin's... life as a slave and more to his desire for freedom and such, which is when he goes to the Jedi Temple and he becomes a Jedi, there's another element of slavery that adds to his life where he's not really free, even though he's free of his Tatooine slavery. He's now a slave to the Jedi law. Another thing that I think that it affects is his relationship with Padme. They can then start the romance sooner.
Yes.
They can start the romance sooner, and it's not this awkward babysitter crush thing that happens in episode 1.
It's such a weird transition going from the first movie being Phantom Menace, where he's 9 and she's, what'd she say?
She's 14.
She's 14.
That's what they,
and then them jumping into
that's
being
the official
young
thing, but
adults.
where I heard that from was the Weird Al song.
Yeah. That Weird Al is amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
I love that song so much.
You should go listen to it. It's This Here Anakin Guy by Weird Al, taken from the American Pie song.
It's
a good song.
It's fantastic.
So that relationship changes. You can start the romance a lot sooner, and furthermore, you have more of an older kid being taught by a younger adult kind of relationship that will occur. Whereas a 9-year-old Anakin that gets brought up essentially and raised by 25-year-old Obi-Wan, there should be more of a respect level relationship there where it's more like almost a father-son thing. Whereas they wanted to go for that brotherhood relationship. So if you have a 15-year-old and a 25-year-old, there's more of a brotherhood relationship of an oldest older brother and a youngest younger brother kind of a thing happening.
Yeah, that does solve a lot of main issues that I had with the prequel trilogy and with the portrayal of Anakin that we got. Plus, if you get less on the lore side but more on the practical movie making side, you might get a better performance from a 15-year-old than you would a 9-year-old Jake Lloyd. I
didn't mind Jake Lloyd's performance, to be honest with you. There were lines in it more or less than his performance where I was when he was it's working!
Yippee!
It's working! Those were
Darth Vader goes yippee!
But you couldn't really blame that on Jake Lloyd as much as George Lucas, because that was his dialogue that he wrote for the kid. It was
Yeah. I mean, it takes a good actor in order to beat a bad script, and
which Ewan McGregor did.
Yeah, which is why we love him.
But to be fair, Ewan McGregor got also all of the best lines in the whole movies.
Yeah, it was an Obi-Wan
He didn't get
trilogy.
any of the terrible lines.
It was the story of Obi-Wan and not the story of Anakin becoming Darth Vader, because he got the coolest lines ever.
Another thing that having Anakin be 15 does is when he goes to confront the Jedi Masters in the Council, and they tell him that he's too old to start training, that actually makes more sense to me. That, okay, yeah, it makes sense that a 15-year-old who's already sort of started to develop his own philosophical ideas would be considered too old to start training as a Jedi. Because someone who's 9, they're still moldable. His rebellion and turn from the Jedi almost doesn't make sense with him being 9, because think about this. You were a slave. At 9 years old, some Jedi comes and frees you. For one thing, it's a Jedi that came and freed you. He took you from slavery.
Right.
Then he gets killed, and his student, who becomes your best friend, trains you. He becomes your best friend, your father, your brother. Are you likely to be able to betray them that quickly like he did in Revenge of the Sith? They're your family, for all intents and purposes, when you've been with them for that long.
Right.
Yes, there may be some issues that you have with them where you're like, I'm on the council, but I'm not a master. That's unheard of. It's an insult. I can understand those things, but that's not enough to warrant a complete betrayal like that. Even the issues that he had of dreaming about his wife getting killed, in my opinion, aren't really necessarily enough coming from a 9-year-old to be able to betray your entire life.
Right, makes sense.
But I feel like if he's 15, that makes more sense, because he would have been starting to develop his own philosophical, mindset at that point in his age, and he would be less likely to be able to be molded by them 100%, which would make sense of his ability. It'd be like adopting a 9-year-old versus adopting a 15-year-old. You have more time with a 9-year-old before they leave your house to be able to get to them to the point where it's like they feel like part of your family. Whereas a 15-year-old, they're literally there for maybe 2 or 3 years. Yeah. And then they go out into the world and they're an adult now. And then maybe don't even stay your family because they're like, you adopt me when you're 15. I'm an adult now. I'm free. I'm going to go do my own thing because screw you.
Right. Now, I really like it. I think it's a really solid what if or theory or do-over, whatever we want to call this. But the only issue that's in the back of my head right now is his relationship with Palpatine. A 9-year-old, I feel, would be more susceptible to the whispers of Palpatine than a 15-year-old could. Because if some old man came up to you is like, hey, you're doing a good job, you should keep doing this. As a 15-year-old, you're like, you go away. I don't really want to talk to you. But a 9-year-old would be more blind or susceptible to that.
I agree 100%. The one thing that I could say that they'd be able to explain it away in this instance would be because of the fact that Palpatine's relationship with Anakin was really more like a mentor-mentee relationship rather than like family.
He's more of a father figure.
It's like, it would also be more like when you go to high school, right? And like you meet like your Spanish teacher or whatever, or your woodshop teacher, and they kind of like become a mentor in your life for a little while, your youth group leader,
Yeah, makes more sense.
So it's like they could take it on that line where it was like Anakin and Palpatine almost had like a youth leader, mentor, cool guy teacher at the high school student type of a relationship.
Right. Okay.
So they could have gone that way with that relationship rather than it being so much of a I'm a creepy old guy that's like got great interest on this 9-year-old's life.
Right.
Because that also you have to admit that's a creepy line.
It still is kind of weird.
Your future with great interest.
It's it seems good on paper, but when it's done in execution.
I agree. I do agree that making him 15 does change that too a lot, and could make it make Palpatine's ability to have sunk so deep into his mind with the dark side stronger with him being a 9-year-old. I do agree with that, but there are ways around that for this idea.
Right.
So,
cool.
There's always a way around it. I mean, not always, but usually you could find a way to explain in any situation why something. I just don't personally feel like. I think that would be like one of the things. Had you just done that, that could have fixed a lot of errors that came from the prequel trilogy.
Right.
Now, it probably could have also brought its own errors with it. But.
Yeah. It's a give and take. Give and take. There's probably going to be something that we wouldn't like about it. But
also, maybe people liked the little kid Anakin and wouldn't have wanted to not be able to have that in the first movie.
Yeah, I know someone who told me that their favorite Star Wars character was Anakin from Episode 1 because he was just so cute. And you have to kind of respect it. You kind of have to respect that, they went for a more cute, relatable, make you fall in love with him before he breaks your heart in 2 other movies.
Yeah. Make sure you're getting close enough to your microphone.
Okay.
Make sure you're getting picked up.
Yeah, all right, sounds good. All right,
All right, so now you can go. What's your what if idea?
I've got one. So I want to preface this real quick that as far as I know, he's not around in the current canon, but my what if is what if Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit. I know he has in the old canon before Disney wiped it away, before the Thanos snapped it out of existence, but I know he survived outside of there in the books and whatnot, but as far as my knowledge or of the new canon that Disney has set up, he is not. He died.
Yeah, I don't think he's survived. I think that they're like wanting to make that Boba Fett movie that's going to say that he did, but as of right now, that's not canon.
Yeah. So my idea would be Boba Fett would be crawling his way out of the Sarlacc pit, and he looks up and sees the Millennium Falcon and Luke's X-Wing fly off out of Tatooine. They're blasting out of Tatooine. Mm-hmm. And so he's going to come back. He has... Because it's Han Solo. It's his main rival.
Just a real quick question. Are you talking like in reference to also like...
In reference to...
We actually found this out in Return of the Jedi. Like, so it would change the trajectory of Return of the Jedi.
It would change Return of the Jedi.
Okay, yeah.
So this is going to change Return of the Jedi. So he crawls out. He sees Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, and the droids blast out of Tatooine. And so he was just humiliated by Han Solo. That like Han Solo and Boba Fett, I feel like, are two main rivals. That's the kind of relationship that I get from them.
Almost like a Phasma Finn situation.
Yes, sort of, yeah. And so Boba's not going to take this sitting down. So he's gonna come in later during the Battle of Endor, and he's gonna try to face off and kill Han, basically.
I think that would have been awesome.
So like while they're attacking, let me try everything. Han, Leia, Chewie, and the Ewoks are trying to attack the base, the shield generator. That's what it was. I'm totally blanking right now. Mm-hmm. While they're attacking the shield generator, Slave One pulls up, and Han looks over at Chewie and he's like freaking out because Boba Fett's back. How is he back? We just saw him get like thrown into the Sarlacc pit. And I
apologize if you can hear the scratching on the door. That's my dog. Yeah.
He's like, let me in. I want to be a part of the video.
And this is my Kylo Ren helmet.
It's a very nice helmet.
Anyways, proceed.
So, they'd have some sort of final battle, whether it be like hand-to-hand, gunslinger, or maybe if you even wanted to like bring in a ship battle in some way to just add more drama, or make Boba Fett cool. Because I know he's cool outside of the canon or outside the movies, but when you just watch the movies in order, he's kind of a wuss.
Could have been cool to have a Slave One versus the Falcon with Lando and Boba.
Yeah, it would have been pretty cool.
That could have been interesting.
Because, like, Lando betrayed Han and helped Boba, so it'd be like a cool little revenge moment, too. And we get a cool ship fight with the Millennium Falcon.
Could have been like a redemption moment for Lando being like, I betrayed Han once, I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah.
It'd could have been cool. Is like, okay, Slave One shows up, Falcon and Slave One fight. Slave One crashes down to the planet's surface. Han and company show up with the Slave One. Han tells Leia to take the troops ahead while he deals with Boba Fett, and then you have a little square off with Boba Fett and Han. And then by the time Han makes it to the station, that's when everyone's been captured. You know,
right.
That could be cool.
So,
I didn't mean to take over your what if.
Yeah. So the only issue that like I kind of see here is there's a lot going on in the final act of Return of the Jedi because you got
adding
a lot going
Boba Fett
on.
in there could be a little bit ridiculous.
It could just be too much.
Awesome.
It'd be awesome.
But a little
It'd
bit
be a cool character moment, but it would be kind of nuts.
I agree. That would probably be my primary con for it would be with how much is already happening at the end and how much happens throughout the course of the film and what other things I would have rather seen if they were going to add more to it. The Boba Fett storyline feels like they should have had that final face-off on Tatooine, if anything. Rather than having it be the stupid, he accidentally gets hit by the stick and then jetpack gets off.
Just, woo!
Yeah, because honestly, that was George Lucas did Boba Fett dirty in that movie, to be honest with you.
He was like, we have this really cool character, and he can't survive outside this movie. I don't know, he just gets bumped with a stick and flies into this pit. Or
I like everything about that idea of having Boba Fett, climb out of the pit and survive the movie until the end where he has a little last showdown with...
it just adds more to his character. Because honestly, he's a fan favorite, but he doesn't do
the
much.
only way you'd be able to do is if after you have the scene where Yoda goes to visit Luke goes to visit Yoda. Before it goes back to the rebels doing their plan to take out the second Death Star,
right.
You could show Boba Fett arriving on this Death Star, explaining that he lost Han Solo and like trying to like go to like the Emperor and Darth Vader saying, I want him back, let me go hunt him down for you, or whatever, not necessarily in like a begging way, but just being like, here's the deal.
Yeah.
I can take out these rebels for you. You just give me some ships and like an army. And so then that rebel versus Empire fight at the end of Endor could have ostensibly been led by Boba Fett.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like they already know that Han Solo is going to be coming or that the rebels are coming because they've set that trap for them.
Right. Yeah.
So they already know, or at least the Emperor and Vader would know, I think. And so you have Boba Fett, returning to whence the person that helped him find Han Solo before, so he could find Han Solo again.
Yeah.
Because maybe this time it's not about the money, but it's about
it's a personal reason. This time it's oh shoot! I just totally lost my mind there for a second. Oh.
And so Boba Fett's like, let's get dangerous, and for a short period at the end of his life becomes like an Imperial officer. Like I could see that being the way that they worked the story in without it taking too much screen time in. But I think the biggest con I think of that what if is more or less the screen time issue, and like there's already so much chaos happening.
Yeah.
That it would be hard to work in, and I understand why he didn't.
Maybe like another nitpick sort of thing. Boba Fett's armor is really similar to the Imperial troopers.
True. And
so he might get lost in the background. He's green, and we're fighting in a forest or whatever. So he could just get lost.
The other interesting thing is that maybe Boba Fett did survive and went to like Vader to try to like do something, but then like maybe halfway through the Battle of Endor, like changes sides and helps like defeat. Maybe he's the reason why they're able to get back into the station after their land fight, is that he comes by and he's just like boom, 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 instead of like the Ewoks or something,
Right.
Maybe Ewoks helped, but like it was really Boba Fett being like, Vader and the Empire needs to be taken down, so I'm going to go help my rival for a second, and then we're going to be rivals again after that. That could have been an interesting. Yeah. That wasn't a what if, by the way. That was just an idea that I got.
Adding something onto his character other than he's a bounty hunter and he likes money and always gets his man.
Exactly.
No disintegrations or whatever.
Well, and it could have been fun. Had this been a plan from the beginning, Captain Rex is in Return of the Jedi. From the Clone Wars.
Right, he is.
So he's the old guy. So it could have been interesting, like, if they wanted to include, like, a new scene to a future, like, the ultraviolet purple ray.
The super duper
flame
special editions, yeah.
The flame edition, that's the super expert duper spaceball edition or whatever.
If George Lucas decides to do another cut
they could, like, input a scene with Captain Rex and, like, Boba Fett or something like that. If they just, if they were going that route with the story.
Right.
Had they gone that route with the story in the beginning, they could have done something like that. I don't think they're making any different versions of the original trilogy anymore. I think if they did special editions, if anything, it'd be like the special edition of Last Jedi, where it doesn't suck.
Okay, so real quick, 20th Century Fox owns the rights to the original Star Wars.
No,
they don't.
No,
that's why I read they only they can distribute, or George Lucas.
No, Disney owns the rights to them on the terms that they are not allowed to alter them in any way, as per George Lucas' requests in their deal.
But they can't like re-release the originals like the way they were theatrically.
They cannot re-release the theatrical editions. No, they can only re-release the current special edition versions.
That's disappointing.
It's fine because I have them on VHS right over there.
Shh! Don't tell him. Don't tell him.
You didn't hear that from me. So yeah, those are just the ones that I have on VHS. What happened was they released them on home video like back in 1992 as like a mastered edition.
Right.
Like that was like, here's essentially the original versions of the movies on VHS for you to watch at home, so you don't have to wait for them to come on TV once a year anymore. Right. Then in like 1996 or whatever, they re-released them on VHS as the special editions. Then in 2004, right before Revenge of the Sith came out, they re-released them on DVD as like super duper special editions or whatever.
It's too much.
Or the despecialized editions, which are still like specialized editions.
Yeah, let's just get one copy of Star Wars.
And then when the Phantom Menace 3D came out, they re-released them all on Blu-ray with some extra editions and whatnot.
Yeah, it's so confusing.
Yeah. So is that pretty much your what if?
Yeah, that was the one that I was going with. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're at a 20-minute mark right now. I think we have time for each to do like one more quick one.
Okay.
Unless you want to do like a full hour video.
I'm cool with whatever.
Let's just do another one and then we'll see what we feel like after that.
Yeah, sounds good.
So my second idea is more of a sequel trilogy. What if?
Okay.
And this what if is, what if instead of on Takudana, Finn fought TR-38 or whatever?
This was at Maz Kanata's castle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or TR-8R, Traitor, I think was what it was supposed to be referenced. Something like that.
Is that what they named him?
Yeah. Because he goes, Traitor!
Oh, I love the internet so much. That's fantastic.
And so, instead of him fighting that stormtrooper, what if that combat had involved him versus Phasma?
Okay.
And here's what I think that might have done. First of all, we didn't get like anything like that from Phasma at all in the first movie. So it would have been a nice little cool fight scene with him and Phasma to show off her prowess where she just basically pwns him. But also it would have built this nice little like Phasma versus Finn like rivalry that takes place where she's like, traitor, and then they like,
yeah,
they duke it out. He gets pwned, but then he gets saved by, Chewbacca's crossbow, but she doesn't necessarily end up dying from it. She's like, oh, I gotta skip away, which again would show her power because we've already seen what that crossbow can do to people. And if she's
that crossbow's ridiculous.
Limp away, with her life, retreat, man. They have a Kashyyykian crossbow. I think that, and maybe she doesn't get hit by the crossbow, but the idea being that Finn and Phasma have that little melee fight on Takudana, which would then make her character of more importance in that movie. It would build a rivalry, Boba Fett, Han Solo type of a storyline between the two of them, so that in The Last Jedi, when they have another fight,
it means more.
Oh, it's the rematch from way back then.
Right.
And then, when he's on the ship and he, overpowers her for a second, and it's like, this kid that is like, I was his commanding officer, and now he's just kind of coming in and taking control and is like, betrayed me. That adds more to her character, too.
Right.
That makes her a more compelling character, because it's like, you understand, if she's coming from a standpoint of, he was one of my squad members, and he's betrayed me. That makes her more of just a villain that works for the First Order. That makes her a military person that takes betrayal and traitoring very seriously, and that she's and maybe you can see scenes of it throughout the movie where she's like, I know he was just a peon, little pawn dude, but I don't like that he did that. I hate that. It bothers me.
It just adds more to her character.
Yeah.
Phasma is kind of, for all intents and purposes, she is the new Boba Fett of this trilogy,
right.
Where she looks cool. The internet goes crazy. All the fans are thinking she has a cool armor, and I can't wait to see whatever she does. And they have a great actress playing her. I don't remember the actress.
Gwendolyn Christie.
She's from Game of Thrones. I know that. And everyone gets really hyped about her and really is pushing, what is she gonna do? And she just does nothing. And she's just there to turn off the shield in the first movie.
She's voicing Captain Phasma in the Resistance TV show right now.
Okay.
But Captain Phasma's only been in 2 episodes, so it's
okay.
But I just feel like Captain Phasma is such a cool concept of a character that has become throwaway in her story. Similar to Snoke.
Right.
At this point.
Yeah, I feel like there was more to her character that was just left on the cutting room floor.
And honestly...
Or left in, script rewrites.
And honestly, I don't want her to come back in the third movie just because I don't want it to be another moment where
there's absolutely no way she should survive.
Well, she already theoretically shouldn't have survived the Starkiller base because she was in the trash compactor.
That's fair.
And it's so she came back already from supposed death. And so she comes back again in the third one from supposed death.
That'd be just ridiculous if she came back for the third movie.
It's a little bit it's more ridiculous than the idea that Boba Fett could have climbed out of the Starlight Pit, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I don't
like
see
the
any
idea. It's just
I don't see any cons with this, honestly. Like, if we get more of her character, like, honestly, Star Wars is more character driven than anything else, and so I'll accept like
as long as
more
it's good.
minutes or more backstory or whatever, as long as it develops characters further and we actually get something from them.
And it's not just let me just shoehorn you in here because, oh yeah, you're a character that we're supposed
And
to
while
be right now.
she looks cool, and she does have that pretty cool fight scene with Finn in The Last Jedi where they have
a pretty good fight scene.
It's a really good fight scene, and
Now take that and
They
do
just-
it on Takodana with a lightsaber.
yeah, that'd be pretty good.
All right.
Like, honestly, there's no con to that.
There's not really a con to that. It's just a good idea that J.J. Abrams should have done. But hey,
I like to think that
you live and
maybe
learn.
they wrote something in for her.
Maybe
but
it was a
they
deleted
just
scene.
It's a
'Cause they
deleted
had to-
scene, or
It
they
was one of
cut
the
it
most
out.
more useless scenes that they could have cut out. That just stay all the time. The other thing is
Yeah.
that I think that Force Awakens could have been at least 10 minutes longer. It was only like of actual like movie time. It was only about 2 hours and like 5 minutes.
So it's relatively short compared to like other blockbusters that come
Yeah.
out nowadays. They're like two
I think
hours,
all the Star
19
Wars
minutes or
movies
something.
of actual screen story time, not counting the end credits,
Right.
they should be at least 2 hours and like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm counting like the logos at the beginning and because to me that's part of the Star Wars viewing experience: the logos and the crawl.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so
Alright, cool.
that's it for that one. I think we could do one more each too. So you could
you
do
have
one
enough
more.
time?
Yeah, you could do one more,
Okay.
and then I could do one more, and you could do another one. 'Cause
So
we only had 26 minutes.
Okay, so I've got a relatively short one here. Well, it depends on how long we take this. What if Anakin had lost the pod race?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, for background, Anakin's put in this pod race. Everything is counting on him right now. What if he lost? So let's break this down. Qui-Gon, Padme, the Naboo ship with Obi-Wan and Panaka and all the guards and the decoys or whatever, they're all still stranded. And Darth Maul is tracking them. They are. How exactly does he track him again? Is it like a droid or? I think it's a droid.
I actually don't think Darth Maul tracks them. I think he just lands on Tatooine, and then like has a droid go find them. I don't even know if they established how Darth Maul even knew they were on Tatooine.
It's Lucas prequel writing, so we didn't make the rules. We just.
I gotta
them.
rewatch Phantom Menace. Still, don't quote me on that. I gotta rewatch it just to check because it could have been like one of those like Palpatine knew because of
Probably. Yeah. So the way I kind of see this working out is it could be a relatively quick fix. Like they established that they can message or receive messages through the ship, so they could just call the Chancellor or the Jedi Order or someone being, hey, we're stuck here. We need to get to Coruscant. Come help us out or something.
But then Anakin would never have come with them, and maybe the Jedi would never have fallen.
Yeah.
You know?
It could
Or,
change the entire.
Theoretically, what if Yoda shows up with a ship or something like that and ends up like being like, oh, he's the chosen one. We need to bring him with us. We can't leave until we get him.
Yeah, they established
What
that
if-
he has a very high metachlorian count, so I feel like maybe they take him anyway, even if he lost.
Well, I think also, what if this? What if, whether or not it was through the pod race or what, maybe it was always Anakin's destiny to go join the Jedi Order at some point and become Darth Vader. That the Force was going to make that happen regardless.
Okay.
No
So it's
matter
kinda
what,
like-
no matter what detours might have happened, maybe the Force would have always found a way. So if this is the path, right, this straight line.
And if there's like a slight detour, but it'll always find
So
its
maybe
way to
Anakin
correct
went this
itself.
way for a second. The Force always finds a way to get him back over here,
Right.
regardless of what happens. So maybe,
Do you
what?
think real quick, this is just something I just thought of. Would Anakin be able to survive the pod crashing? Or
I
like
don't
breaking
know.
or something?
My gut tells me that because he has the, strong midichlorian count, that he might have been able to. He might have done some sort of like reactionary force thing that he wasn't trying to do, but maybe that the midichlorians did for
Right.
him to help him survive the crash.
And we see Sebulba.
So Bulba, it also would
Survived
depend
his
on how the
crash.
crash happened.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
Or
the way
his-
Sebulba's happened
Or
is...
his pod just may not have started like at the beginning. Like,
and maybe he
either
didn't
way,
fix it in time or something.
Yeah,
like
regardless.
or maybe he didn't crash. Maybe it's just a Sebulba, but he just didn't catch up to Sebulba fast enough to be able to actually win the race.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember, if you remember Sebulba's crash, it was like the one engine goes like this, and Sebulba goes and then just kind of slides.
Right.
Not everyone did a horrible like kind of explosion thing.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that depending on how
it happened,
he could have,
it could go many
and depending,
directions.
it could have not. So.
Yeah. All right.
That was a nice quick one. I think I have one more that I think. You know how when you're looking at the movies and you're like, have they just done this or have they just done that, or I liked this a lot, and so you think about things.
Right.
And you know how I feel about The Last Jedi.
Yes.
I feel this. What if instead of on Crate when Luke confronts Ben?
Okay.
Either instead of it being a projection, guys, I think it should have been one of two different ways instead of the way that they did it. If it's gonna be a projection, don't have Luke die afterwards. So what if Luke didn't die from the projection? What would that be? Then the other half of it would be if Luke was actually there and he actually had a lightsaber fight and was actually killed by Ben Solo in Obi-Wan fashion, like in Episode 4.
Right.
Which path would you prefer for one, and then what would those repercussions be, depending on each one?
I think I would.
And how do you think the fan backlash would have been, depending on that?
Regardless, I feel like the fan backlash wouldn't change that much, regardless of which path they took. There'd be people on either side, regardless of how it went down, that would dislike it. Like if he sacrificed himself like Obi-Wan, there'd be people like, oh, they're just repeating more elements from the previous movie. Mm-hmm. And if he did survive his force projection, there'd be people like, oh, why, if he doesn't appear in the next movie, then why doesn't he do more? He's still alive. He's just sitting on his island. He's not doing anything.
See, my thing is, if he didn't die from the force projection, what that does is that allows Episode 9, it allows for us to see the Luke we didn't get to see in Episode 9. So it allows us to be able to forgive and understand, oh, they were just getting Luke to a point in this movie. But what happened is they got Luke to a point and then killed him, so we didn't get to see him at that point.
Now,
really.
Mark Hamill has been confirmed for Episode 9, so
yes.
I feel like they're doing that, but he's just going to be a Force ghost.
Yeah, they're just going to
Mark Hamill he's getting older. And he's not going to want to go to set every day and do this stuff.
Stunt doubles can do his fighting for him.
That's true.
As long as he's there to be able to hold a lightsaber and do the lines for those couple of close-up shots, when it comes to the physicality of it, a stunt double can do that stuff.
Right.
That's not a problem.
I feel like you're right. I feel like they are building him to that point, and in Episode 9, he's going to be more of a ghost father figure or mentor figure.
And I think that what I'm saying is, I think if they were going to do if they're doing the force projection thing like they did, I think people could have swallowed that pill of him not actually being there better if he just didn't die at the end. As beautiful as that moment was, I think it would have played out better if he didn't die and was able to do something. I could be wrong depending on what they do with his Force Ghost stuff in Episode 9. So I'm kind of withholding judgment on that.
Yeah.
But I also think that if he's going to die, people would have forgiven the way he was in the movie had he at least had one last badass lightsaber fight.
So logically, for me, like, it's established that Luke's an older guy and he's disconnected himself from the Force for a number of years. So him using this amount of power and focus, like, after a long period of him not doing anything Force involved, it would make sense that he got really tired and kind of fade away.
I could understand that he might have gotten really tired and died and stuff like that. But I could also, given the power level that Luke is, and also you have to remember, Luke hasn't been disconnected from the Force that long. It's not like it's been years and years and years and years and years.
It's been maybe 20 years at best, or depending on how old Ben is.
It hasn't. Some details that we do know from a book called Bloodline is that Ben was training with Luke as soon as 6 years prior.
Okay.
We know that Ben has only been Kylo Ren for maybe, at the most, 6 years. Okay. Which means that Luke has only been cut off from the Force for, at best, 5 years.
That's true.
Which is not long enough for him to be able to die from that, in my opinion.
I mean, it all depends on how
get
powerful
very
you want.
fatigued and tired and maybe drop into a coma, yeah.
It all depends on how powerful Luke is, because I never got the impression that Luke was the most powerful Jedi that's ever been. I mean, in the outside canon, I know becomes like the greatest Jedi ever. He's the most mythic guy, and he's the number one.
You have to kind of assume that they were going to play off of that idea that over the years of researching and finding out about the Jedi and being able to basically spend all of his time honing that craft, that he did become so raw. And based upon the fact that he could project himself in general, you would assume that he'd be that powerful.
Yeah.
Because if you have the ability to project yourself across the galaxy like that, you're probably pretty darn powerful in the Force.
There's no real scale of power level in Star Wars. I feel like there needs to be.
There does need to be. The power level that we use...
For example,
if you're not Yoda, you're terrible, essentially is what we say.
So, for example, pulling from the X-Men comics, you have what's called a mega level mutant.
Right.
And there's different classes of how powerful someone is.
Or like in X-Men 3, they say she's a level 5 mutant.
Yeah, there's a scale to how powerful you are. I feel like maybe we need to make something like that for Star Wars.
They have some level of that to a degree where they're like, oh, they're just a Padawan, they're just a trainee.
Yeah.
And in the prequels, there was some semblance of that when they noted that Anakin was decisively better than a lot of even the Masters.
Yeah.
And they would use the skill level of a master to like quantify what it meant to be like a great Jedi.
Yeah, there's like a structure of like a youngling, Padawan, up and up, but since we've moved more away from the prequels, there's not really that anymore.
Yeah, and I mean also when we watch the things, we can kind of get a sense for how powerful someone is. You know?
Yeah, like Yoda's up here, and Luke, I don't think will ever reach like the level that he.
Well, for example,
achieved.
we see the things that Obi-Wan can accomplish, and we think, okay, he's a pretty strong person, and then we see him get owned by Count Dooku. So that puts Obi-Wan here and Count Dooku here.
Yeah.
At least.
Okay.
And then we see Count Dooku basically get owned by Yoda. Right?
So it's kind of like power scaling.
Basically by showing what one person can do and then showing that person get owned by another person, it does kind of show the power level. And then in 3 we see how much Anakin's gotten better because he owns Count Dooku.
Yeah, that's not been a real fight. It's just he's kind of toying with him at best.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I just think that in this instance where if you're gonna have Luke die, I think there would have been less. I do personally believe there would have been less of a fan backlash if Luke either had actually had a lightsaber fight with Kylo Ren, and then been killed, or if he didn't die after the Force projection. I just believe that there would have been less. I think people already had a hard time understanding why Luke would be the way that he was. Because for all intents and purposes, for a lot of fans out there, that wasn't Luke Skywalker. They can't even conceive of him getting to that point. Because he never got to that point in the books. He did other things in the books that were like kind of like, whoa, like he actually went dark for a second.
Yeah, Luke has not always been the straight arrow that everyone perceives him.
And I don't think he was a straight arrow, but Luke has always been steadfast in his belief. And always.
Okay.
Through till death, he was steadfast in his belief of the Jedi Order.
We could probably make a whole other video on Luke and the Last Jedi and other stuff like that.
Yeah.
We just went down a huge rabbit hole real quick.
And so, for the fans that were like on that side of things, they could have probably forgiven Luke being the way that he was and understanding that it was a character moment for Luke and it was a character section for this movie, that now that he's gotten over that, we can get back to real Luke. As long as he didn't die.
If he wasn't in... Like, I personally thought the scene was beautiful. I thought it was great with the two sunsets.
Oh, I agree. I like the scene.
And
I don't like what it does for the overall
Luke
story.
Luke not been confirmed for Episode 9 in some way, I would have been pretty mad as well that we never got to see Luke
actually, Luke being confirmed for Episode 9 has calmed a lot of those fans down in a lot of ways, because now we know we're going to get some semblance of Luke. Well, but even Luke coming back as a Force Ghost, we're not going to get the Luke that a lot of us want to see. Yeah. Because the Luke that a lot of us want to see is that Obi-Wan Kenobi level Luke. We want to see that Revenge of the Sith era Obi-Wan version of Luke, where it's like he's just this awesome Jedi that's very wise, and like what he says is the right thing to do. Yeah. Like with Obi-Wan.
feel like we kind of...
Or like that Yoda, kind of
He kind of ended that way in Return of the Jedi, but we never got a full,
We never got
a full picture of what
basically,
he was like.
the original trilogy got Luke from whiny farm boy to, I have to now, responsible aged Luke Skywalker that now has to start the Jedi Order. And we didn't get to see Luke in his prime Jedi era. We just skipped right to, it's time for the Jedi to end. Wow, that sounds a lot like Mark Hamill.
That was really good, actually. I'm really impressed. Yeah, it's really jarring. It's jarring, and I think it's supposed to be jarring.
And again, I could be okay with that.
Yeah.
And I'm probably, depending on what they do in 9, I could have been okay with that in 8 if he just didn't die. Or, if he was going to die at 8, we at least just got to see one last lightsaber hurrah from him.
It's really difficult to judge these movies until the third one in the trilogy is cast.
I agree, and I've always said that myself.
So I have opinions about these movies, and I've ranked these movies, and I'm kind of... I know I'm going to readjust them when Episode 9 comes out in December, and I get a full scale of everything that's happened.
I probably will too.
So yeah.
To end the video, would you like to do just a quick little ranking? Just a quick one that's maybe not official, but like kind of where we stand right now, off the top of our head.
Okay. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me?
I can go first.
All right.
I'll go from worst movie to best movie.
Yeah, we'll go from worst to
perspective
first.
right now as it stands. I would say Attack of the Clones is by far the worst movie.
Oh yeah.
And I hesitate to say this next one as the second worst because I know a lot of people love this movie, but personally, right now as it stands, this could change when Episode 9 comes out. But right now as it stands, Last Jedi is the second worst movie in my opinion.
Okay.
Followed by Revenge of the Sith, and then Phantom Menace, and then Rogue One. The reason why Phantom Menace is above Revenge of the Sith, by the way, I'm sure you can understand why it's at least above Attack of the Clones, but
yeah,
the reason why it's above Revenge of the Sith is a couple reasons. One, I saw Phantom Menace as the first movie as a kid in theaters.
Yeah, there's that nostalgia factor
for me.
There's that nostalgia factor.
But also, I feel like it had the most Star Wars-like and concrete storyline out of the entire trilogy. I feel like Attack of the Clones both and Revenge of the Sith both had their issues, but I feel like the thing that Phantom Menace won over even Attack of the Clones was its solid story progression. It had a solid story that got you from a point A to a point B,
right?
And that you could really understand what was happening in it.
Okay.
So there's Attack of the Clones, Last Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, and then Rogue One.
Right.
Mainly the reason why Rogue One's all the way down there is because it took too long to get good.
Yeah.
There was so much exposition and teaching us what was going on in the movie and where the world was at that it was like by the time it got good, which was the Battle of Scarif essentially.
Oh yeah, that battle's really good.
It was like
I rewatched that the other day.
I would have theoretically turned off this by now if I was watching it live television or something or
right.
Right. After that is, I know this is going to be blasphemy for people, but A New Hope, Return of the Jedi,
okay,
The Force Awakens, Solo. I know Solo's my second favorite.
Solo's high up there.
Yeah. The reason why Solo's so high up there is because I feel like for what they were trying to do, they had a lot of work ahead of them. They were taking the most beloved character who had recently just been killed off by his son in the recent movies.
This seems kind of like a peace offering by Disney, like, sorry!
And they're trying to take the most beloved character, give a new actor to him, and tell a little bit of his backstory. I think the actor captured the essence of who Han Solo would have been in that era of his life.
Yeah.
I think they captured his meeting with Chewbacca very well. I think that Chewbacca's character in general was handled exactly perfectly right and almost better than how he was handled in the original trilogies in some ways.
Yeah.
And I feel like the story was it was there, it was good, and it made sense, and you understood why everything happened the way it happened. Lando was amazing. There's not a lot to complain about with Solo. The score was great. I mean, it had Emilia Clarke. She's just a beautiful woman.
Oh, she is. Emilia Clarke.
And then if you haven't seen Solo, what are you doing with your life? It's been out almost a year now, so I don't mind saying this. It had a surprise little cameo by Darth Maul with the Duel of Fates music, and that was just amazing. Also, John Williams actually wrote the Han Solo theme song for this movie. Like,
that was my favorite part of the score right there, outside of the different musical callbacks.
Yeah.
Like, that was my favorite original piece of music from that.
Yeah, and so obviously, in my opinion, the best Star Wars movie is The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think anything else needs to be said on that.
Okay. So, my ranking is, off the top of my head, I started ranking these recently, so I have a more definitive, but, like, I've only gone through like half of them. So for right now, it goes Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is like, there's a huge jump up from Phantom Menace, in my opinion.
I can understand that, because Revenge of the Sith had some of the greatest battles in it, like with Obi-Wan and Anakin and stuff like that, and that opening space fight and stuff.
That opening space fight really reminded me, it felt like the way the prequel trilogy was meant to be. Sure, there's still a little bit of stilted acting.
Well, it should have been fully focused on the Clone Wars rather than just that last movie.
Not everything lands in Revenge of the Sith, but enough of it does to make it feel like Star Wars again.
For me, Revenge of the Sith is right here, and Phantom Menace is right here. There's enough about Phantom Menace that I like a little bit more than Revenge of the Sith that I put it just above it.
Okay. So from Revenge of the Sith, we go Rogue One. And upon rewatch, Rogue One is a lot better than I remember it being. I remember it being kind of dry and boring, and but that third act was really, really excellent. Upon rewatch, I like the aesthetic. Everything looks practical. Everything it feels like Star Wars. You walk. It's not like big CGI. The way the prequel trilogy was, it's a good mix between the practical of the original trilogy and the CGI structures of the prequels. The characters are kind of meh. They're interesting enough to make me like them, but not enough to like be remembered upon like the best of Star Wars.
Yeah, I think the most memorable character was your robot.
Yeah,
and that's kind of bad when your robot is the most memorable.
Yeah,
character.
When the droid is the most likable character and the most fleshed out is not.
When
a
he's
good
the
sign.
one you cry at out of all the deaths.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. So from Rogue One goes Solo. Solo is the most rewatchable, fun Star Wars movie to me. It has the least amount of pretension. Yeah, it is. It's it's the least pretentious, and I respect it for that. It knows exactly what it's gonna be. It's just gonna be a fun movie throughout the entire time, and it is that. From there, it's I go Last Jedi, Force Awakens. They're kind of connected until
Force Awakens is definitely better though for now.
Yeah, I haven't rewatched those of late, but from what I remember, it goes there. And then
I still don't even have Last Jedi on Blu-ray. It's been out almost 2 years, and I don't have it on Blu-ray yet.
The salt is still real for you?
Yeah.
Okay. And from Force Awakens, it goes Return of the Jedi, A New Hope, and then Empire.
Of course.
Yeah.
You mean the holiday special isn't your favorite?
Oh man, I watched the holiday special with my brother, and he just had the weirdest. He had the greatest expression ever of like confusion and pure terror I've ever seen. He was like, "This is real." And his favorite Star Wars character is Boba Fett. So when he first got introduced, he's like, "He was introducing this," and it was so fun. It broke his heart. It broke his heart.
Well,
so yeah.
I can respect your rankings. I don't put... I mean, even for me, I hesitate to put Last Jedi down as far as I put it. Mostly the reason I put it down so far right now is just because the direction that Rian Johnson took that movie, I so disagree with, and I so just didn't like storyline-wise about. And like just certain things that they did with characters. And like that whole father chase scene on Canto Bight was like... I mean... such a waste of time. It could have at least... It was like... the pod race, but worthless, and not fun to watch.
I can see that, but the story elements for me, I thought were interesting, and they broke away from the typical Star Wars formula, which I
agree with if it was not related to a previous story that needs to have a continuation to it. I think that Rian Johnson's story that he was telling was good if it was a spin-off film. Because I actually enjoy and appreciate a lot of the story elements that he was trying to incorporate into it. I didn't appreciate it for a continuation of what story was already being laid out for us in Force Awakens.
It's not perfect.
It didn't seem like a good continuation of what we were already given. It almost doesn't even feel like... Because here's what I feel like about The Last Jedi, just real quick to end things.
Okay.
Is I feel like we were given Force Awakens, which is essentially like, okay, we ordered our chicken and rice, and we got our chicken and rice. Right? And then halfway through chicken and rice, somehow we realize we haven't been eating chicken and rice, but we've really been eating salmon. It's not that there's anything wrong with salmon. It's just not what we ordered. It's a different meal, and it's not what we ordered. And it just seems off-putting in the middle of it all of a sudden to be like, wait, this isn't chicken, this is salmon.
Yeah, I understand the complaints,
Yeah.
but and enough of it seems good enough to me to overlook some of the mistakes.
Well, yeah, and then it's like some people prefer chicken to salmon, and some people prefer salmon to chicken. It's not like The Last Jedi in itself is really a horrible movie, because actually the movie itself is a well done and well put together movie.
Right.
Right. It's, in my opinion, and it's even a good Star Wars story, but it's an awful Skywalker story.
Okay.
It's an awful Skywalker story, and so that's why, as of right now, in rankings of the film, it's not what it's supposed to be, or what it should have been, in my opinion. So that's why I rank it down so low. It misses the mark on its primary requirement, in that it being a Skywalker story.
Right.
So
I understand your points, and we can agree to disagree, as long as we can agree that Attack of the Clones.
Oh, that's the absolute worst.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad.
Okay,
let's not get too sidetracked.
When you would rather watch Twilight
oh boy,
than Attack of the Clones, that's when your movie's bad.
I just think it's boring. The worst thing a movie can do is bore me, and that movie's boring.
I would put Twilight right in between Last Jedi and Attack of the Clones. Like, I would still. Oh shoot! Sorry. I would still.
Second time we lost it.
I would still rather watch Last Jedi than Twilight, but in some ways, I'd almost rather watch Twilight than Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. So it's a mess.
Yep.
All right.
Well, that's all we have for you today. Hopefully, we can bring out another video. Comment below on some ideas that you have, things that you'd like us to talk about, like any other things. We may or may not do what ifs for the next video. We're going to kind of look back at this video and kind of see what things we liked about it and what things we want to do maybe to change for the next video.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is our first video, and so we hope you enjoy it. We might even do a theories and speculations video about episode 9 and where we think things might go.
You and me may also have to have a debate about episode 8 and some of the. We just have to dedicate an episode to figuring out.
It would be cool to do a live
it.
stream
of
that, and like have like the fans be like, not that we have any fans right now. But
we don't have any fans.
We're gonna watch
our millions of fans.
We're gonna watch this in like 3 years and be like, remember when we didn't have any fans?
Yeah.
So yeah, what would be fun though is if it was like one of those like world championship,
And in this corner.
Yeah, we have.
Oh boy. Yeah, we'll have to figure. We'll have to sell our differences.
Yeah. I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Bye.